old man, William sat quietly in his study, staring at a large framed family picture on the wall. His wrinkled hands trembled slightly as he adjusted his glasses. The faces in the photo smiled brightly: his wife Agatha, his 4 children, Frank, David, Cynthia, and Rose. They looked happy, but his heart felt heavy. The wealth he had built over the years filled his house, yet his spirit was empty. He whispered to himself, "Who really loves me in this house? Who will stay when I can give nothing more?" The ticking clock filled the silence. Once his home was full of laughter. His children would run around the hallways, his wife would greet him with warm food after work, and every Sunday they would eat together at the big dining table. But those days were gone. Now everyone seemed too busy, too distracted by their own lives. When he spoke, they only half listened. When he smiled, they barely noticed. It hurt him deeply. He sighed and reached for his phone, calling 2 men he trusted more than his own blood, his lawyer, Mr. John, and his doctor, Dr. Maxwell. They both arrived that evening. The house was quiet, servants moving carefully like shadows as they were ushered into the study. William sat back in his leather chair, his voice soft but steady. "Gentlemen," he said, "I have a strange request. I want to pretend that I am very sick, dying even. I want to see who among my family truly loves me and who only loves my money, doctor." Maxwell blinked in surprise. "You mean fake an illness?" "Yes," Williams replied, "not just any illness. Something that will make them afraid, something that will show me their true hearts." "Mr. John nodded slowly. "It's risky, sir, but wise. People reveal themselves when they think they're losing you." Williams smiled faintly. "That's what I want to see, Mr. John leaned forward. "Then you must also protect yourself. Let me move half of your assets into a private account. They must never find everything. I'll make sure it's safe." Williams looked thoughtful, then agreed. "Do it. I trust you, Doctor." Maxwell exhaled and nodded. "And I will handle the medical part. I'll tell them you have a serious illness. Cancer, perhaps. It will make them act fast." The plan was set. That night, as the 2 men left, William sat alone, feeling both nervous and sad. He looked around at the shelves filled with awards, photos, and files from his company. He had worked all his life for his family, to give them comfort, education, and everything he never had as a child. But deep down, he feared that in giving them so much, he had taught them nothing about love. The next morning, his performance began. He stayed in bed, coughing loudly. He refused his favorite breakfast, complained of body pain, and stared blankly at the ceiling whenever anyone entered. When his wife Agatha saw him that way, she gasped and called for Dr. Maxwell immediately. Soon, the doctor arrived with his medical bag, examined him carefully in front of everyone, and shook his head slowly. "I'm sorry, Doctor," Maxwell said in a low, heavy tone. "Your husband is very sick. He has cancer. It's in an advanced stage. He may not live longer than 6 months." The entire family froze. Rose burst into tears and clung to her father's arm. "No, Daddy, please don't leave me," she cried. Frank and David stood speechless. Agatha placed a trembling hand on her chest, whispering, "Oh God." Even Cynthia, who had been busy with her phone moments ago, covered her mouth in shock. At first, everyone tried to show love. Agatha cooked his favorite meals, though she barely stayed long in his room. The children came often, asking if he was comfortable, bringing him juice, sitting beside him as he coughed. Williams watched it all quietly, his sharp eyes noticing every small detail. Their kindness seemed real, but he knew time would tell. By the end of the first week, things began to change. Agatha stopped coming to his room, saying, "I can't bear to watch him suffer." Cynthia started spending more time with her friends again. David said he had to travel for work. Frank, the eldest, became unusually interested in company matters. One afternoon, Frank walked into the study with some documents and said, "Father, I think you should rest now. Let me take care of the company. You need peace." Williams looked at him for a long moment and nodded slowly. "As you wish." Inside, he felt something break. As the days passed, his room grew quieter. The smell of medicine hung in the air. He stopped talking much, only whispering when necessary. The only person who truly stayed by his side was his youngest daughter, Rose. She cleaned his room, fed him, wiped his face, and sat beside him through the long nights. When he coughed too hard, she would hold his hand and whisper, "It's okay, Daddy. I'm here." Sometimes, when he pretended to sleep, he could feel her quietly crying beside the bed. And though his plan was meant to test them, it began to hurt more than he expected, because the truth was revealing itself faster than he thought. He was surrounded by family, yet truly alone. The next morning, Chief Williams woke up to the sound of laughter downstairs. It was strange to him, too loud, too careless for a house that was supposed to be filled with worry. He lay quietly in bed, his body weak, his heart heavy. Through the window, he could see the sun rise over his large estate, the light touching the gardens he had planted with so much love years ago. Everything looked perfect outside, but inside, everything was falling apart. Rose came in softly, carrying a tray with pap and warm water. "Good morning, Daddy," she whispered, her eyes tired but full of care. She helped him sit up and fed him slowly, spoon by spoon, smiling through her sadness. "You have to eat, Daddy," she said gently. He managed a faint smile. "Thank you, my child. You have a golden heart." She smiled, though tears were already forming in her eyes. After she left the room to clean the dishes, he turned to the wall and sighed. "God," he whispered, "if this is the family I built, then I have failed as a father." His voice broke as he remembered the years he had spent working day and night to build his company and provide everything for them. He gave them comfort, wealth, and a good name, but not one of them seemed to understand love anymore. Downstairs, Agatha was sitting in the living room painting her nails. Cynthia was showing her new dresses to a friend on her phone. Frank was talking loudly on another call, boasting about the company like he already owned it. David hadn't been home for 2 days. Rose's voice echoed from the kitchen, but no one paid her any attention. When Dr. Maxwell arrived for a routine checkup, he went upstairs to William's room. As soon as he saw Rose wiping her father's face, his heart softened. He knew the truth behind the sickness, yet he still felt pity for the old man. When Rose stepped out to bring water, Dr. Maxwell leaned close to Williams. "Sir," he whispered, "are you sure you want to continue this? It's breaking her heart." Williams looked at him with tired eyes. "Just a little longer. I must see their true hearts. I can't take riches to the grave, but I can leave justice behind." Later that afternoon, Frank came into his father's study again, holding more papers. "Dad, the company is too big for one man in your condition. I think it's best I take charge officially. Don't worry, I'll make you proud." Williams nodded weakly, pretending to struggle for breath. Frank smiled with satisfaction, already imagining himself as the new boss. That evening, the mansion was unusually noisy. Music played from the living room, and the scent of wine filled the air. Frank had thrown a small party to celebrate new beginnings. He laughed with friends, saying, "Soon the company will be mine. Dad has only a few months left." No one noticed Rose standing quietly at the corner of the stairs, her eyes full of tears. She ran to her father's room and knelt beside him. "Daddy," she whispered, trembling, "they're downstairs laughing. They're not even sad anymore." Williams looked at her face and felt his heart tighten. He wanted to tell her the truth to stop her pain, but he couldn't. Not yet. He gently touched her hand. "Don't cry, Rose. Time will show everything. Just keep doing what's right." For the next few days, Rose was the only light in his dark world. She cleaned his sheets, bathed him, and talked to him as if he were truly sick. Sometimes she would hum softly, her voice filling the room with peace. And every time she did, Williams felt both proud and ashamed, proud that he had one pure soul in his home, ashamed that the rest of his family had become strangers to love. One night, while everyone slept, he lay awake, staring at the ceiling. He could hear distant laughter from Frank's room, the clinking of wine glasses, and faint music. Then he heard Rose's soft breathing beside his bed. She had fallen asleep on the floor again, her hand resting near his arm. Williams felt a tear slide down his cheek. He whispered to himself, "If I die tonight, at least I know one person truly loved me." But he wasn't ready to die, not yet. He had a plan, and soon every mask in his house would fall. It had been 2 years since Chief Williams revealed the truth. The mansion that once echoed with chaos was now calm, filled with peace and quiet discipline under Rose's care. She moved through the halls with grace and confidence, her footsteps steady, her heart strong. Every worker respected her, every room smelled of order. But deep within her heart, she still carried the scars of everything that had happened. Chief Williams spent most of his days in the garden, watching the flowers bloom. Sometimes he would smile proudly as he saw Rose step out in her suit, heading to work. Other times he would sigh quietly, remembering his other children. He missed them, not their greed, but the love he once hoped they could give. One afternoon, Rose returned from a board meeting to find her father sitting under the mango tree, looking distant. She walked up to him and knelt gently by his side. "Daddy," she said softly, "you're thinking again." He smiled faintly. A father never stops thinking about his children, no matter what they've done. Rose lowered her gaze. "Do you still miss them?" "I do," he said slowly. "I miss the family we used to be before money blinded their hearts." He turned to her and smiled. "But I am grateful for you, my daughter. You are my peace." Rose's heart swelled with emotion. She reached for his hand. "I'm only what you raised me to be." That evening, as the sun set over the mansion, the gatekeeper walked up to the door and called out, "Madame, someone is here to see you." Rose turned, standing at the gate holding a small worn-out bag was David. His once proud face looked humble now, his clothes simple. He removed his cap and bowed his head. "Rose," he said quietly, "please, I've come to see Father." For a moment she froze, unsure what to say. Then she stepped aside. "Come in." David walked into the compound, his steps slow and heavy. When he reached the garden, Chief Williams lifted his head and stared. The silence between father and son was long, broken only by the soft rustle of leaves. "Daddy," David said, falling to his knees, "I've come to say I'm sorry. I was foolish. I was blinded by greed. Please forgive me." Chief Williams stood slowly and looked down at him. "David," he said in a trembling voice, "you broke my heart, but it takes courage to return and ask for forgiveness. Stand up." David hesitated. "You forgive me? I already did," the old man said softly. "The day you left, I prayed that life would teach you what I could not." Tears rolled down David's cheeks as he hugged his father. From the balcony, Rose watched them with a soft smile. For the first time in a long while, hope returned to the Williams household. Weeks passed and peace began to settle once again. David started visiting more often, helping Rose in the company. He worked humbly, obeying every instruction she gave. Slowly, she began to trust him again. Chief Williams was proud. "Perhaps," he said one evening, "time does heal even the deepest wounds." But far away, in a small rented apartment on the outskirts of the city, Agatha sat alone. Her once beautiful face had aged. Ben, the man she had left everything for, was long gone, disappearing after draining her savings. Her gold jewelry was sold, her clothes faded, her phone silent. Regret filled her days like a shadow. One morning, she stood before a small mirror, staring at her reflection. "I destroyed everything," she whispered. "I lost my husband, my children, my dignity." Tears rolled down her cheeks. Maybe it's time to go home. That evening, as Rose and David sat in the living room discussing new business contracts, the security guard rushed in. "Madame Rose," he said, "someone is outside. She says her name is Madame Agatha." The name froze the air. David's eyes widened. Rose took a deep breath. Let her in. The door opened slowly, and Agatha stepped in. She looked weak, pale, and trembling. Her one Elegant hands clutched a small bag of clothes. The house fell silent. "Agatha!" Chief William's voice came from the staircase. He stood there, his expression unreadable. She dropped to her knees immediately, crying, "Darling, forgive me, please, I was blind. I let pride destroy me. I have nothing left, not even a name." Williams watched her quietly. Rose's eyes filled with tears, but she said nothing. David lowered his gaze. The old man slowly descended the stairs. "Agatha," he said, his voice calm but heavy, "you betrayed your vows, you mocked my pain, and you brought shame into my home. I know," she sobbed. "I deserve nothing, but please let me serve you. Let me stay here until the day I die." The room stayed silent. Rose wiped her tears and looked at her father. "Daddy," she said softly, "maybe forgiveness is also part of healing." Chief Williams turned to his daughter, studying her face. Finally, he nodded slowly. "Very well, you may stay," he said to Agatha, "not as my wife, but as a woman seeking redemption. Earn your peace here if you can." Agatha broke down in tears, clutching his feet. Thank you," she cried. That night, as the house grew quiet, Chief Williams sat alone in his study, staring at the portrait of his family on the wall. The faces that once represented greed and pain now stirred something new inside him. Mercy. He smiled faintly. "Maybe," he whispered, "this is how love wins, when forgiveness becomes stronger than anger." Outside, the wind whispered softly through the mango trees. And for the first time in many years, the Williams family began to feel whole again. Years passed, and peace finally returned to the Williams mansion. Chief Williams, old but content, spent his remaining days surrounded by love, not the false kind that fades with money, but the pure kind that grows through forgiveness and understanding. Rose led the company with wisdom and grace, earning respect across the nation. David worked faithfully by her side, proving that change is possible for anyone willing to learn. Even Agatha found peace in humility, caring for her husband with quiet devotion until his final breath. When Chief Williams finally passed away, he left behind more than wealth. He left a legacy of truth, love, and redemption. His story became a lesson for all. Family is not built on money, but on hearts that remain true even when the world tests them. And so the story of Old Man Williams reminds us that life is not about what we gather, but what we give. Not about who we impress, but who we love sincerely. If you were touched by this story, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support helps us keep bringing powerful stories like this one to life.